Welcome to Unrehearsed Research. I'm thankful to have Kathryn Grant here today as our guest. Kathryn is a longtime genealogist and by my count has given over 100 talks at the BYU Family History Library and their webinar series. Kathryn, welcome to Unrehearsed Research.
Thank you, Richard. Good to be with you.
Did I get that right on BYU? I know you've spoken many times there.
I honestly haven't kept count, so your count is probably more accurate than mine is.
Okay, yeah, it was at least 100. And then Kathryn, I've seen at the Utah Genealogical Association speaking there and elsewhere. So she's a longtime genealogist and speaker, and I've heard lots of her talks myself. So as I thought about having her on, I thought of a family, my second great grandfather, Parley George Downs, and his mother, who came from England. And that is a line that's particularly messy. And Kathryn has several talks about dealing with messy situations. And so I thought she'd be perfect, and that line would be perfect for her to come together and look at that. So that's our plan for today. So Kathryn, I gave you that PID before so you could look at my tree. So maybe you could tell us what you found as you looked through that line.
Absolutely, Richard. So when I look at a line like that, and I'm just kind of looking for red flags actually, such as dates that don't match or places that seem inconsistent or variations like children born in one place, but then the other children are born someplace else, and then the next kids are born back in the original place, which back in the time period that we're looking at, that you requested in the 1800s in England, people didn't move around that much. So basically that was it. I just kind of looked for red flags and then explored those to see if they really were a problem. So we found one that
Okay.
actually is.
All right, good. Well, I'll share my screen and then I'll have Kathryn guide me through.
That's where we
Okay.
need to go. So can you scroll down to the member section for her?
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking for someone called Eliza Matilda. And
Okay.
I'm trying, so
So
she
that's her
is,
sister.
yes.
Yeah.
So that's the person that we would like to look at today.
Okay. Yeah.
And then if you could scroll down to her family member section, and she is here joined to a man named Samuel Williams. So as we look at this family in the vital section, we see that they're from Charlbury in Oxfordshire. They've used a non-standard abbreviation there, Oxon for Oxfordshire, and
Oh, okay.
it is
Yeah.
an Old English abbreviation. I've been told that it actually comes from the Latin, but it's not standard. And
Oh.
so Family Search has developed a database of place standards. And the
Hmm.
reason they do that, of course, is for searchability, because if you have CA, does it mean California? Does it mean Canada? Whatever. So to avoid ambiguity, they've asked us to use these standards, and this is not one. So
Cool. Okay.
if you click the pencil icon, it will let us edit that.
Okay.
And here's a trick. If you click after the word England in birthplace and then hit your space bar, oh, you know what? It's different on the new page. You used to have
Okay.
to use your space bar and now you don't. So I would just
So here,
make it,
just a click was enough.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is wonderful. Yeah, now notice that it's got the map marker and that indicates that you have standardized it correctly.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah.
And so here's a place that people often get tripped up for what it's worth. You see where it says reason this information is correct.
Uh-huh.
And that is asking for how do you know this date and place is right? But after standardizing, sometimes people will just put in, I standardized the date. Well, it is true. That's what they did, but that isn't a reason that this information is correct. So
Right.
what I'm saying is I would not put in, I standardized this date because it just isn't helpful. But if you want to put in a reason statement, we can look over there to the side and see that any of the sources that say the right year are actually not right sources, as we're going to discover. For now, let's leave the reason statement out, and then
Okay.
later on, when we've attached correct sources, we can come back and we could reference those sources.
Do you ever go in and see that, someone's written it like this in that older form, but then it's standardized down below? And so you
Yeah.
get those two fields, ones where it's the way it was written, and then below it's the standardized version. We're kind of getting the best of both worlds, the standardized version plus the original. Do you ever
That is
But
such a good question, Richard. And I'll tell you the times that I do leave it as two separate ones is when the original one contains something like a cemetery or a church that I feel is valuable information,
okay,
but it's not standardized. But in this case, a lot of people, especially if they haven't done English research or lived in England, they wouldn't know what oxen is because
okay,
it's a weird abbreviation,
mm-hmm,
and so in that case, I would just fully standardize it. So yeah, if it contains
okay.
valuable information, I'll do the double like you said.
So the cemetery name might not be in the standardization database, so
Right.
you'll keep it. Okay, yep,
Yep,
good.
exactly.
I'll hit save then.
Let's get grounded in where she was from.
Okay,
So Eliza is from Oxfordshire, from the parish of Charlbury in Oxfordshire, and there's no death information. But also, if we scroll down and we look at her siblings, they're all born in Oxfordshire as well. Yeah, if you want to click on a
just click,
couple
click.
of them, they're okay. She doesn't have one, but John, he's Finstock. Finstock and Charlbury are like 2 miles apart, so they're
Yeah,
very
okay.
close together. And so the family, as you can tell from this, is living in Oxfordshire. Look over at the marriage place of Eliza Matilda and her husband Samuel. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you notice about that?
Different county.
Absolutely. So they're in
Yeah.
Gloucestershire, getting married in Gloucestershire, and but she lived in Oxfordshire. And at that time, it was tradition in the 1800s, the marriage almost always took place in the bride's parish.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah. So while this isn't impossible, it's definitely a red flag.
Okay.
So the first thing that we probably want to do, since the marriage looks possibly suspect, is to find the marriage record.
Okay.
And so the first thing I do for that is just check sources and see if it's already attached.
So that one, I suppose.
What do you notice about the surname there for starters and the
Different
middle name?
spelling. Eliza Hudd instead of
Yeah,
Hutt. Yeah.
exactly. Okay, let's open it up if we can, because you remember her husband's name was Samuel. And so now I'm seeing Eliza Hutt
Hmm.
has an entry for James Williams.
Yeah.
Hmm. And I
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
know if that's a dad or what's going on, but
Okay. Do you want to go
okay.
jump to the original right away?
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay, let's do that.
And I don't know if you saw that little notice that said you might have to navigate backwards or forwards because this is
Oh,
not an indexed record. So, do you remember the date of the marriage? I actually don't
it was
remember,
40, yeah, 80, 46. It was
but do you remember the exact
March.
day?
Oh, that
Okay.
says October, but then is that right?
Okay.
Is that what we had down here? Yeah, October. So
Okay.
October
So,
46.
that'll help us navigate.
Okay, so should we go just forward here? I see August
Yeah.
and there's October.
So it's moving
Um,
pretty quickly. At this time in England, these types of records, there's always going to be two couples. And so the top one is somebody's marriage that took place on October 4th, but the bottom one is the marriage we were looking for of Eliza with and it does say James.
hmm,
So so for one thing, we already noticed that the surname doesn't quite match, but back in the day, nobody really cared about spelling. So in my mind, that's not enough to disqualify it. But this isn't Samuel Williams, it's James
yeah.
Williams. So there's a problem right there. Oh my gosh, how funny. Do you know what? I looked at the ranker profession and for a
Oh,
minute I thought it said horse stealer. It doesn't say
yeah.
horse stealer, it says horse dealer. That
Yeah.
old handwriting can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But what do you notice about the condition, which means were they divorced, single,
Oh, yeah.
whatever, when she was married?
So she was a
What it
widow.
She was, and what does that
Yeah.
mean about the name Hud?
So would that be her married name that she's bringing to this marriage?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So it's not her maiden birth name or
Oh,
her
good
maiden
catch.
surname. So now scroll over to the right and let's see what her dad's name is, and that will tell us her maiden surname.
Walker. Yeah. So
So
you're
this,
saying you've always seen that when a woman marries for the second time,
right,
she uses the first married name
in English records
in
at
English
this
records.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great.
this woman's name is really Eliza Walker. It's not
Mm,
Eliza Matilda Hutt.
great catch.
So now our task is, now that we've proven that Eliza Hudd is not the same as Eliza Matilda Hutt, then we need to go back and repair the issues that we're seeing. So if you want, you can go ahead and close this,
Okay.
and then got to go back and clean up the record because right now
Yeah.
she's connected to the wrong husband and probably the wrong kids. But I'll be honest with you, I've seen mangled situations where the husband might be wrong, but the kids might be right. So we would expect her children to still be born in Oxfordshire. And so can you click on like the first Elizabeth Williams and Emily, and let's just see where they're born. They're over in Gloucestershire. So these kids do
Yeah.
belong to Eliza Hudd, and they don't belong to our Eliza Matilda.
Interesting.
So
And
this is
what do you make of the Samuel and Eliza versus James?
That is such a good question. What I make of it is there's probably multiple bad merges. So this is a pretty mangled record. But the interesting thing is, Richard, we wouldn't have known that without starting to dig into that first inconsistency. It's just so important on records like this to just look for those red flags and not to be too skeptical, but at least to check them out. And in this case, we found absolute proof that our Eliza did not marry Samuel Williams.
As you looked into this family, did you find Eliza because you started at the top and just went down through the siblings, or how did you find
Yeah.
this one as the place to start?
I'll tell you, Richard, I rely a lot on what you could call gut instinct. Since I'm a person of faith, I call it the Holy Spirit. But I listen to my heart and try to feel kind of where I should go. And there's nothing wrong with that systematic approach. A lot of people will do that. And just in this particular case, I felt drawn to her and
Very
then
cool.
discovered that there was a pretty big problem.
Good.
Richard, do you keep a separate database of your family? Like, do you keep something in Family Tree Maker
I
or
don't. Yeah.
okay, I'm the same way, but the reason I even brought that up is that to make an analogy. So, if you have a personal tree, say an ancestry or something, and you create a record in there for Eliza Matilda Hutt, you know who that is because it's your tree and you created that person to represent a certain human being. The
Hmm.
trouble is in a shared tree like Family Search, and there are a few others, but mostly Family Search as a shared tree where everybody can contribute. The original intended identity of a person can be changed or at least corrupted, as it was in this case. So we have Eliza Hutt looking like she is both the daughter of Joseph and Martha, but also the husband of Samuel and the mom of Elizabeth, Emily, etc. And we know she can't be both. So
Right.
does which human being does this record represent? And so what I've come to the conclusion in a shared tree that it's important to honor the original intended identity. In other words, when somebody first created this profile for Eliza Matilda Hutt, who did they intend her to be? Did
Hmm.
they intend her to be the husband of Samuel or James or the mom of these kids? Or did they intend her to be the daughter of Joseph and Martha? Sometimes you'll find that somebody entered it wrong and there's a dual identity, but most of the time in the change log, you'll discover that there is a real intended identity and that later it got corrupted. And
Hmm.
you might ask, why do you go with the original intended identity? The reason I do is that how could collaboration be meaningful if just any user can change any identity? We'd be building on shifting sand. That's why I feel like the baseline has to be the original intended identity. So, should we look at Eliza's
Yeah.
original identity? So the way to do that is just go into the changelog. And then the changelog is in reverse chronological order, which means the oldest entries are at the bottom. So it means to see her original intended identity, we've got to scroll clear to the bottom and see how she was first entered. So
Fortunately,
here
that was just one page. Sometimes that's much more, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is a fortunate one. So, one point I wanted to make here is notice that over on the right-hand side, we've got some dates and we've got a contributor as Family Search. So, the date is 2012 and the contributor is Family Search for those very earliest entries. People will sometimes misinterpret that to mean that Family Search researched and contributed this name. But the truth is, as Ron Tanner explained, he's the product manager for Family Search. explained that when they moved from the old system, which ironically was called new.familysearch.org, when they moved from that system to our current system, they of course had, hundreds of thousands of names. I don't know how many it was, probably in the millions. The contributors, some of them were dead. They didn't have permission to share some people's names. So Family Search made the difficult decision to leave all that contributor information behind, not to bring it over to the new system, and instead, for everything that was imported, they just put Family Search on it.
Hmm.
So the reason I mentioned that is this does not mean that this was vetted by Family Search. It just means it came from the old system.
That's a very important point.
So looking at the entries for May 30th, 2012, Richard, what do you notice as the core identity for this woman?
Eliza Hutt with the T's. She's born in Charlbury, and Eliza Matilda Hutt. I guess we don't have a marriage at that point.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And one other thing I wanted to point out, this is actually another reason why standards are so important. Tell me what you would interpret of that birth date.
I would see it as 1826, I guess, because that pops out right away, and then
Yeah.
I would assume month and day after that, so
Yep.
December 6th.
That's what I would assume too. But you can see how, maybe a new user comes in here and goes 1826120. Is that some weird code? And this is why Family Search asks us to standardize. But
Great point.
I agree with you. This is undoubtedly supposed to be a birth of the 12th, or excuse me, the 6th of December in 1826. So that's her core identity. Notice
Okay.
there's not even any parents. So all we know about the core identity of this woman is her birth date, her birthplace, and her full name. What do you notice about that burial? So I actually do not see a sign of where that burial originally came from, but this is an entry that Dennis Downs deleted it in 2015. And what do you notice about the burial date?
13th of June, 1826. So it's before her birth date.
Yeah. How many
Yeah.
people do you know who get buried before they are
Right.
born?
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
so much, right? So, yeah, that looks legitimate that he deleted that. There's no source. We can't even really see where it came from. So, now let's keep scrolling up and see if we can tell where that marriage came in. Like, how did that even happen?
Yeah. Okay.
So we've just got her being joined to the parents, but that looks legitimate. Notice, can you scroll back to the beginning of the changelog?
Yeah.
So this is something really important about reading the changelog, and I do hope that it will be changed someday. But notice that those original entries are just text. So if you click on them, nothing happens. So sex
Oh, right here.
female, yeah, the original ones, sex female, nothing happens. The birth is
Yeah.
static. But click on, if you notice an icon and if you hover and it turns into a hyperlink, just click on one of those and you should get the summary card, I believe. Exactly. What that means is the information is being drawn from the current page. So it's not always trustworthy, because if there have been bad merges, it could be displaying a bad merge name. So that's just
Hmm.
something to be aware of when you're looking in the changelog. And I've actually spoken with a developer at Family Search, and they're aware of the problem. And it is a legitimate problem. For instance, if you went back right now and you deleted Matilda as the middle name today, then if you came back to the changelog and looked through the changelog, Matilda would be gone, even on entries before today.
Got it. So you're
So
seeing, yeah, you're seeing today's data, even though we should be seeing the data from back then.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
just something to be cautious of. So I just wanted to point out those text only entries are totally reliable because they don't change. So now let's keep scrolling up and see if we can find when that marriage entered the picture.
Parent, child, husband, wife.
Yep.
There's Samuel.
So there we've got, now notice on this one, this has a contributor of Family Search, but it's in 2016. I will share something that I do not know if it's absolutely always true, but if you see Family Search as the contributor after 2012, the entry could have been done by Family Search support.
Okay.
However, that still doesn't guarantee that it's correct. And so here we've got a Samuel Gardner Williams, which actually doesn't match the marriage record that's
Yeah,
attached.
that's right.
And then let's keep scrolling up and see if we see where Eliza Hudd came in. How about if we filter to merges?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Great thought.
Thank you.
I think it's at the, let's see. I always forget how far down it is, but let's
Yeah,
see if
it's
I
like
can.
somewhere around there.
There we go. Okay. So now we're
Okay.
seeing, yeah, half a dozen or so.
So the first one looks pretty good to me. The bottom, by first I mean bottom. The bottom one looks good because the name matches exactly, the year matches exactly.
Okay.
So let's scroll up. That second one, we don't know because the Eliza has no surname. So we could check that out at some point. The third one, same thing. Fourth one, aha, I think we're hitting
Hmm.
pay dirt here. So go ahead and click on Eliza Hutt.
Eliza Hutt. Okay.
Yeah.
Go new tab
And
for her.
yes, that'd be great. When you merge two people, it shows up in the change log. If no changes have been made since the merge, there will be a blue unmerge button. And when you click that button, everything goes back just the way it was, as if the
Oh,
merges
okay.
had never happened. But do you see the blue unmerge button here?
Yeah. Nothing at the top there, right?
Nothing there.
Yeah. Nothing
And
there.
the reason is that changes have been made since the merge. Because
Hmm.
of that, Family Search doesn't know if there were an unmerge button and you were to click it, Family Search doesn't know what to do with changes that were made since the
Yeah.
merge.
Does it go to the
It
old person or the new person? Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
instead, they remove the button and they require you to undelete the person that was merged. And when you undelete somebody, they go back the way they were before the merge. But the other
Hmm.
person, the survivor, will still have all the wrong information on them, and it has to be cleaned up manually. Go over to Eliza and we're going to undelete her. Well, actually, it's not called undelete. Sorry, it's called restore.
Restore.
So,
Okay.
yep, that's the one. And
Okay.
then it's super important here to put a good reason statement because obviously someone thinks they're the same. And so we need to say here why we know they're not the same. And then this reason statement is going to become part of the change log. So then if somebody comes back and goes, wait a minute, how come you disconnected my Eliza from Samuel? Well, then if they look in the change log, they go, oh, okay, now I see why they really aren't the same person.
Very good. Okay. That's cool.
Okay.
Okay. So zero
So,
sources, but we
yeah,
have our name and the marriage that she was a part of.
yep.
Yeah.
So now let's go back to the previous record and undo the other Eliza Hud.
Okay. So
She also
here,
doesn't,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
she doesn't
Okay.
belong inside your person either. And here's the thing, Richard, that a lot of people have to deal with is when you clean up somebody, often temporarily, it will make bigger messes like we're looking at here. And so then you just kind of have to make a judgment call. Do I want to clean this up or do I want to focus on my family? It's a good thing to clean it up. There's nothing wrong with it, but I also wouldn't want anybody to feel guilty or feel like, oh, I'm spending all this time cleaning up this other mess. And so I would just say it's a personal decision
Okay.
as to whether you want to clean up this other family. Can you click on Samuel? Okay,
Let's
actually,
go back to Samuel. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, let's see where he was born. Because again, just based on my experience, there's all kinds of possibilities for um, does that say Kentucky?
Kentucky is what I'm seeing. Yeah. I just kind of, my eyes got big because I saw Kentucky there.
Okay, then I am actually not at all worried that Samuel might possibly be Eliza's husband at some point. So,
Yeah.
okay, great. So I think we're safe in disconnecting him from our Eliza.
Okay, yeah, and his birth records, I mean, even the Kentucky's not supported in the sources,
Oh
but
gosh.
that's another thing to worry about, right? It's
Yes. Now,
okay.
this is a place where if you keep some kind of a task list, I'm guessing you might keep it in Goldie May, is it, like we said, it's so easy to go down rabbit holes, but also maybe you don't want to lose the fact that this has to be cleaned up. So it's a good idea to write it down someplace, whether it's in Goldie May or a Google Doc or whatever, but in order not to lose it, if you decide that you want to clean it up. So let's go down and disconnect him since he's pretty obviously not Eliza's. So we want to actually go
Yeah.
back to your Eliza.
Okay.
Whose
And that would
page are
be
we on?
her. I'm wondering, Catherine, the
Yeah.
children are all attached to her, but
Mhm.
we don't think those are her children, right? Because these are,
Right.
but possibly his children.
Yeah.
Well, I guess when we remove her as as a wife, we can choose to remove her as the mother too, I believe.
I honestly don't know on this new page if you do it in one step or two. So this will
Hmm.
be a learning experience for both of us. Let's try it, see
Yeah.
what happens.
Okay.
One thing I'd do there is I'd get rid of that Oxfordshire marriage because it doesn't pertain. We're on Samuel right now, and it's exponentially unlikely that Samuel got married in Oxfordshire because he lived in Gloucestershire. So, and also notice the angle brackets. I don't know if you've heard this before, but in the old days, like way old systems back in like the 1970s, 1980s, the way that you indicated that a date was an estimate was by putting those angle
Oh,
brackets
okay.
around it. So anytime you
Good.
see that, you know it's an old date and it's an estimate.
Good to know.
So I would just scroll down and click delete event for this. Man, 2 for 2
Two
spelling
for two.
Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing. I'll tell you,
No.
my hardest one is Leicestershire. That's like the
Yeah.
hardest one to spell.
I don't even say them well, but spelling them is another story.
Yeah, I hear you.
Um, yeah.
So,
Okay.
so
So,
now the two marriages, Gloucestershire, the marriage dates, those look right for the other family. So now I just disconnect Eliza.
do we want to delete this relationship? Is that the idea? Because we're deleting the marriage between the two of them.
Oh, do you know what? That's interesting. I've never used that function. So I'm actually not sure how it works. I always do this remove or replace. So I'm actually
Oh, because you're
finding,
saying maybe it leaves a slot open for the mother to be there, the right mother to be there.
yeah, but I'm really wondering if that other one is a good way to do it too. I'd like to find out sometime. So it's your call, Richard, whichever way you'd like to do it.
Okay, so yeah, so delete the couple relationship. That would remove this person as a parent of all children currently
Oh,
linked to this couple, but it would
that
just remove
answers your
her.
question.
I
Yeah,
guess that is what we want, right? Because we
I
want to
think so.
remove her as yeah, okay. So then I'll go ahead and do remove wife. Now let me think about this. So Samuel is the one that was in the marriage record, right? In the
Actually,
original,
actually it was James. That's the
it was
crazy thing.
James.
So
Yeah.
all we know here is that Eliza Matilda Hutt did not marry somebody in Gloucestershire. So how do we even
So we don't have a source for that, but we're saying based on the distances of the counties, we wouldn't expect.
and also because the girl who got married on that date was Eliza Walker. So because we saw
Okay.
the marriage record.
Yep.
So that's maybe
Yeah,
yeah,
you're.
this is a hard one.
That's a hard one. Yeah. I'm going back to here, and so we know these dates in Gloucestershire are wrong, but
Correct. And we
do
know
we
that the
know that they're
people
not married?
Well, the thing that, yeah, see, that's the good point. That's why
Well,
I had you look up Samuel. And I would say we're very safe that they didn't get married because he's got a Kentucky birth date. But honestly, judging, you pointed out, Richard, that he also had sources in Gloucestershire. So really, somebody needs to go through and probably undo some bad merges on Samuel. But for now, you and I looked at that marriage in Gloucestershire in 1846. It was for a James William and an Eliza Hud Nay Walker.
hmm.
So we know that that marriage date does not pertain to our Eliza. So maybe that's the thing, is just to say Eliza Hud, who is, I'm just talking totally off the cuff here.
I'll wait to
Eliza,
type. Yeah,
yeah,
to hear you talk.
Eliza Hud, who got married in Gloucestershire in 1846. Her maiden surname was Eliza Walker, so therefore we know she's not the same person as Eliza Matilda Hutt. Maybe that's the key reason. We just know the two women. We know that our
Hmm.
Eliza did not get married on that date.
Okay, that should explain it. Yeah,
Yeah, good
maybe I'll
job.
copy that just in case thank you, in case I need that again in the next minute. That slot opened up and the
Great.
4 children are attached to him. And then but then if we
Yes.
go to Eliza now, she is just, according to the tree, a single woman living
Yep.
in Oxfordshire. Okay. Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
Good.
So now the next thing that we want to do is go look at the sources and also any dates and just see. So when you remove the marriage, it removed the wrong marriage date. So that's out of there at least. And can we scroll up and just make sure the vitals all look okay?
Yeah.
Oh, so the vitals look okay. Can we scroll down to other information though? Because as you know, sometimes when people add sources, they will say add a residence. And so if there's any
Yeah.
Gloucestershire residences, they're probably wrong. Do you feel pretty confident that we can get rid of these Gloucestershire residences?
I guess I'm probably 90% there, and maybe I would start with the sources, like you said, and
Okay, that
just see
sounds
if
good.
that, I guess it'd be unlikely, right, that she moved, but we
Yeah,
could start
that,
with the sources and see.
yeah.
Does that sound
And
okay? To
it absolutely does. It sounds great.
England births and christenings. Okay, so do you want to just go one by one through these, or are you going
We,
to look for red
yeah,
flags?
yeah, I
Is
was thinking more to look for red flags, but I'm good with going one by one if you would prefer.
okay.
So
Now
your
I'll
call.
let's see. Yeah. So yeah, I guess if I say now Bristol is in Gloucestershire,
It is.
so we think maybe that 46 one, that marriage probably don't belong, right?
Correct.
And then Eliza, that's Gloucestershire,
Yeah.
married to oh, that's the father, Samuel.
Yeah. So this is a
Okay.
christening for their child, which is actually not her child.
All right. Okay. So do you want to go? And if I go back over to, say Eliza Hutt, either of these ones, she has zero sources. She has zero
Yeah.
sources. Do you go ahead and move those over? I guess Eliza Hutt's not necessarily my family, but
Right.
it's right in front of us that we probably think this source belongs to the other Eliza Hutt. So would you typically just move it over,
You
or do
know,
you just leave it for another day?
I would move it over, honestly.
Okay.
So because like you said, this one is pretty much a slam dunk and it's right in front of us. And so it's just a simple thing.
Okay. So, and interestingly, James is on this marriage record, right? And we don't have a James. Yeah, we have the
Right.
Samuel. So,
Yeah. So that might be one not to move over
okay.
because yeah, the names just aren't lining up.
Okay. So maybe I'll detach it and we'll just, and someone else can decide who to attach it to.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Is that
And
enough, you think? Yeah.
I'd point out the maiden surname because that's kind of absolute proof. An Eliza Walker is not going to be the same person as an Eliza Matilda Hutt.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Good. And there's another one here.
Yeah.
Detach.
And now we're getting into christenings of the kids. So the reason statement will be slightly different, like that she's not the mother of these children. And so we could go into the GRO and look up the maiden surname if you wanted to, but I'm honestly not sure it's necessary because
Okay.
I feel like we've proven that she's not the mother of these kids. So I would just maybe detach it and say something along the lines of, the mother of this child is Eliza Hudd, maiden surname Walker. And that's how we know it's not our Eliza Matilda Hutt. Yep. And then that one we could probably use as a reason for most of them.
Okay. Good.
Oh, doesn't this feel good to clean this up?
It does. Yeah.
So while you're doing that, let me make another comment for our viewers is that you might say, why do I have to hassle with this and go back? We're having to delete like 15 sources here. Well, and yeah, it is tedious. And why do we want to do this? The reason we want to do this is that Family Search is designed to use the sources to generate more hints. And so if you leave bad sources on a person, Family Search is much more likely to generate bad hints for that person, which will then get attached. Then that leads to bad merges and the problems just snowball. So even though it might be a little tedious upfront to do this, it is so worth it to clean it up because then you don't get the bad hints.
Oh, great point. That's good. And you have an intuition for these titles, right? Because you're seeing Eliza Williams in entry 4, and that is your indication that she's not the principal person in the record. She's the
Right.
mother or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And you get used to it more, Richard, as I'm sure you found, is, for some of our viewers, they might be going, I will never get this, but actually you will. The more you do it, it just kind of starts to sink in, at least for me it did. And then it
Hmm.
just look at it and go, oh yeah, christening record, marriage record, whatever. So, and
Very
some
good.
of them,
Now, Samuel Williams, here's a census, and yeah, so this will be a similar
yeah.
reason statement.
Yep, just with a little tweak. And what's interesting about that, we don't have to dig into this, but that census shows that the Eliza was not born in Oxfordshire. So that's even additional proof that the
Oh, great
census
point.
applied. But now we're back to christenings, which is good. So
Okay, so that's
now,
cleaned up, and then details.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
See, I'll just say there was a separate Eliza Hutt. Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay.
like that.
Thanks. So go delete.
Oh my goodness. So remember the marriage record showed a James Walker, and notice that his PID or his ID number starts with a G.
Hmm.
G's started being used in October of 2018. Before that, it was L's, and then before that, it was K's and M's and different things. But the reason I wanted to say that is this James Walker was very recently added, and he's showing up as a
A
father
father. Yeah.
to Eliza. So it looks like somebody added him based on that marriage record, if I had to guess.
Okay. Let
Do
me
we
pull
see?
that up. Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
see.
let's see if he has any sources. Yeah, the source is the marriage record. So,
Spouse
oh, but
Eliza. Spouse father's name of James.
yeah, look what the father's name
Okay.
is.
So she married a James, and
Oh,
her father was a James. Is that right? James Williams and James
yeah.
Walker.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. At that time in
Okay.
England, like James, Elizabeth, Eliza, those names were so common. So all we know right now is that this James is not the father of your
Not of
Eliza,
this Eliza. Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But he is the
But
father probably of the other one. So
okay. So I could go in here and just say we're going to delete her from this father.
awesome.
Oh, okay.
That is perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we don't know for sure. That's
Yeah.
And so now notice there is a duplicate over there. So at this point, Richard,
Okay.
we could go two directions. We could try to deal with this duplicate, see if we think it really is the same person, or we could try to find what really happened to Eliza Matilda. Did she get married? Um, did she have kids? Whatever. So it's your choice on this, which one you would rather do.
By the way, I think before it said that there were three duplicates or two
Oh,
duplicates because it was
interesting.
bringing up those ones we had just unmerged.
Ah,
So to your point, as we removed sources, the hinting engines said that's no longer a possible duplicate because they're seeing these two people as separate people.
yep,
So
exactly. Good point.
makes your point.
Yep, glad you
Okay,
said
so
that.
yeah, so you're to your question. You're saying we can look at this duplicate, or we could just look for kind of original research.
Yeah, try to find out what really happened to Eliza. And so and maybe we have time for both, Richard. And
Okay,
the reason I like to try and find out what happened to the person on your line is to avoid future bad merges, because somebody might come back in, especially if they're watching the page, say, "Wait a minute, why did you remove my Eliza from, Samuel and everything? I knew that was right," because they probably did. And so then if we build it out and we have sources, then it's less likely that the mistakes will be repeated.
cool.
But
Okay. Yeah, I would be curious to look at this duplicate just to see if it's a slam dunk and then otherwise come
I
back to
love it.
doing some original
I love it.
research. Yeah. Okay, so names, dates. This is that tricky thing where the family seems to appear in both of those cities that are 2 miles
Yeah.
apart.
And
But
actually,
then,
do you know what would be interesting if you want to? When I agree with you, this is a slam dunk. And let's see if Ancestry or excuse me, if Family Search has the image. But if they don't, Ancestry normally will have images from this time period. And what's interesting is you can see on the christening record what the family's residence was. And so it's possible that the church was in Charlbury, but they actually lived in
Oh, okay.
Finstock, and they just traveled to Charlbury to go to church and have their kids
Oh, okay,
christened or
perfect.
whatever.
Okay,
So,
yeah, let's do that.
and actually, the fastest way, honestly, is to do it from the person page and do the
Okay.
partner search.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Let's do that. So family search first, or do you
Yeah,
jump straight to?
let's
Okay. So then, do you want to filter by birth?
actually, those
Uh,
sources right there look to be Eliza Matilda Hutt, 27. Oh, is that the right
she the one
date?
already attached to
I
our?
thought
Yeah, that's the one that she
okay,
has
good.
already. Yeah.
Okay, so click on the little document icon and let's see if there's an image available, but I bet there isn't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna, oh,
Puts us
yay.
on page one. Okay.
Awesome. Oh, then in that case, instead of, since it hasn't been indexed apparently, let's pop over to Ancestry.
Okay. So close those tabs and we'll go to
Good.
here, not here, ancestry.
Yeah. Okay, here's another thing, serendipity in family history. What do you notice about that first record's date?
30th January 1825.
And when was our gal born?
She was 26, we said?
Yeah.
6 December 1826.
So the most likely explanation, let's just look at both of those and see if the parents are the same. So
Joseph and
Joseph and
Martha.
Martha, and yeah, let's look at the record and see what his occupation is, because that can be really helpful in determining whether two records are for the same person.
Great point. Okay, I'm looking for Hutt, and my
Yeah,
first pass didn't see it. Let's see.
yeah, I didn't see it either.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Oh, and
Hutt.
I can see why they took out one as Hull, because that kind of does
Yeah, it does
the
look like
cross.
L's.
Yeah, that
Yeah, or
cross
it's
stroke is very light.
mm-hmm.
So what is his occupation back there in the second to
Mason.
last?
Okay.
Yeah, which is a
Yeah.
very cool, unusual occupation, which should make him easy to track.
So a farmer
So,
would be harder, I guess, if we.
right.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
farmer and miner are harder, but policeman or like constable, mason, those are easier.
Hmm.
So now we know they did have Joseph and Martha, with Joseph being a Mason, they did have a daughter named Eliza Matilda that was christened on the 30th of January, 1825. So now let's look at the other record and see if it's for the same couple.
So you're saying this one here that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow. This handwriting is,
Yeah, that's a tough one to read.
yeah.
Could it be that one there? Let's see. Oh, it seems so fast on Ancestry.
Yes, it does.
It's maybe I'm seeing an I in there, which might not be Hut.
Yeah,
Let's
I don't
see.
think that one is. I don't see it on.
Oh, what about that last one on the bottom of the left?
Oh, you nailed it.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay, so
because Hut, and look at the occupation.
Mason.
Yeah. Oh, and look at the residents.
Oh,
You
thank you.
notice
Yeah.
these are parish records of Charlbury, but look at what the residents for these people, like him and the guy above, it's Finstock. So apparently the family
Oh,
did,
that's Finstock there.
yeah. Oh,
Oh,
and
were you?
actually to
Oh,
the
here.
left,
Yeah,
yeah,
Finstock.
to the
Yep.
left of
Okay.
Mason. Yeah, that actually,
Yeah.
the other one you were looking at, this handwriting is really hard to read, but that says curate, which is just this might be a little bit
Oh,
of
okay.
interesting trivia for you, but the reason that they called the clergyman a curate in England at that time is because he was supposed to cure souls.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's a religious person that helped you get your salvation and
Oh, okay. Good word.
cure your fallen station. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
cool. So, what we're
So,
seeing from this is that this couple had two daughters with exactly the same name. And Richard, are you familiar with in England why a couple would have done this?
I think maybe I've heard this from you. That is it because the first daughter died?
Exactly.
Okay,
So that means we're missing an Eliza in family tree because there's only
great.
one
Yeah,
Eliza. So this little baby, do you want to take a minute and see if there's a burial date for a death date for the first
yeah.
baby?
Let's do that.
Yeah,
So I'll keep those tabs open.
awesome. I would actually, this is what I love about Ancestry. I would just click on that first christening and see if a hint comes up. So click on that first link and then under suggested records, see if Ancestry gives us a hint for a burial.
Okay, so let me go to so view record and
Yeah.
then suggested records. Okay.
And look at that. And the name matches exactly.
Wow.
Look,
Yeah. A year later, or maybe not even a year, but
but about,
about a year, huh? So
yeah.
let's see.
And my heart just aches for this family. You know, people say
Yeah.
that records are boring, but if you really read the human aspect of the record, they're not boring. They tell a story.
Yeah. I mean, in that second daughter with the same name, they must have felt she was bringing hope that was lost.
Yeah.
Does that look right? Eliza Matilda,
That's
oh,
Daugh.
daughter. I was
Yeah.
stopped reading. Yeah, daughter of Joseph and Martha Hutt. Okay, yeah, Finstock, 13th of January was her burial date.
Yeah. So everything
One
is
year
lining
old.
up. Now,
Yeah.
here's an interesting thing. Because I know you're interested in this kind of thing, this isn't exactly a beginner concept that I'm going to say right now, but I think it's helpful. Is that do you remember when we first looked at the changelog for the current Eliza Matilda? She had a burial date and it was before she was born.
Oh.
And it was this burial date. And we're like, where did that come from? So the most likely thing is in the old system called new.familysearch.org, you couldn't merge, but you could combine. They called it combining. So my guess about what happened is that somebody combined these two girls over in new.familysearch.org. And then when the data was imported to Family Tree, she came over as one person and that little baby was lost. And so
Oh.
today you found the little baby.
Yeah,
Then
and it
people,
makes sense why someone would see the combined person and say, "Hey, I can't have a burial date before the birth date, so I'll just delete it."
exactly.
When really it was for the sister.
Yep, you're exactly
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Very cool.
So, so if you
Okay.
want, we can enter this baby in
Yeah,
family
let's do
tree.
it. So we'll go back to her parents. So Joseph
Yeah.
and Martha.
I'll tell you, this never gets old. Honestly, finding people who are lost out of their family tree and putting them back
Yeah.
is like the most amazing feeling.
Yeah, that's really cool. Eliza's here, and you've got a gap there, 3 years, don't you, between the two?
Oh,
So
good
that
point. I hadn't noticed that. You're
I hadn't
right.
noticed that till now, but
But
okay,
she
so
fits right
she
there.
fits, yeah. So Eliza, Matilda,
That's a beautiful name.
yeah, and then we have,
Now, we don't have an exact birth date, but she, given the fact that she's christened in early 18, was it 25? Sorry, I'm getting them
I
all.
think it was 20. Yeah, now I'm forgetting if it's 25 and 27 that were the two. Here's a 24.
Okay.
Baptisms in 24.
Oh, and then notice the date in the margin, Richard, on the left margin. So the curate
Oh, okay.
has noted where he started 1825. So yeah, she was
Oh, okay.
born or
Oh, because
christened
it's
in
January.
January.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1825. So we don't know if she was born in early January or late 1824. So I would just put about 1825 and that would be good enough.
Okay.
And because we
And
know the family's residence, that they were living in Finstock, I think it's safe to say she was born there.
okay.
Do you feel okay about that?
That seems okay. Yeah,
Okay,
that does feel good. Yeah.
well,
Death date. Now here we'll go to, and we don't know the death date, do we? But we could say about
yeah, when
18.
when was
Let's see.
she
Am I
buried?
make sure I'm
Because
looking at the right record here?
Because we know that at that time in England, they didn't delay burials. So the baby would have been buried within like 2 or 3 days of the death. And
Hmm.
so, given it's 13th of January, I do feel that we're safe saying that she died in 1826. But because, see the 1826 in the margin.
Thank
So,
you.
do you feel comfortable saying the death was 1826?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
especially even January, I suppose. Is that fair to type
Yeah,
in?
I
Yeah, we
think it
could say.
is. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then we would just say Finstock, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure she died of that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Okay, so they
It's,
brought up as a possible match
yeah,
the
the
one we
sister.
already have. Yeah, but we
Yeah.
know we know they're not the same.
And so the sister was born, yeah, the end of that same year that the
Yeah.
older one died. Okay. Yeah. So that no problem there. Great. This is really good. So I'll go ahead and add to her profile
Yes,
the christening and
absolutely.
the burial.
And then that way people will not be confused and merge the two girls.
Yeah. So let's say 13th of January 1826 was the burial.
Yeah,
Oh, and maybe you're
because
right
the
about the church being in Charlbury too, since that's the parish there.
yeah, and we know the
Okay.
burial took place in Charlbury, so I would feel comfortable putting that as the burial place. And for the reason statement, I'll just usually say something like burial date and location provided in burial record, see sources or something. And their Family Search isn't really strict about these, so you can kind of just type whatever you feel would be helpful to other users and helpful to you in the future. Because I'll tell you, I've used my own reason statements. Sometimes I come back years later and I'm like, what was I thinking? And the reason
Yeah.
statement tells me. So
Very cool.
awesome.
Okay, sources, and then go ahead and add that source. Okay.
Awesome. I
Okay,
love it.
good. Yeah, this is really good. And then this is our baptism in 24. So the older daughter, and she is christened 30th January of 1820. You saw in the margin 25. So 30 January.
Yeah, I was just realizing I already said the thing about, we know she could be born late 24 or early 25. We just don't know because they didn't record the birth date.
Cool. Okay, that's really good. Then I'll pull over that URL. Okay, that feels great.
Oh, and do you know what? The one thing I forgot to have us do when we were adding the sources is to tag them to the events.
Oh, great point.
So,
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So come into, let's see, edit. Oh, I can tag them from outside, I think
yeah,
here,
on
that
the
tag.
on the
Okay.
new the new interface,
There's an
it's
interface. Okay.
it's
Yeah.
it's
So,
changed. It's convenient.
yeah.
So yeah, it said
Sex,
daughter of,
christening.
so yeah. And on this one, you can tag, if you want to, birth and death as well, because you can infer the death from the burial, and they gave the age, which lets
Oh,
us
great point.
infer the birth. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's great. And
awesome.
then we'll see it here, right? We'll go to birth and see
Yeah,
sources. Yep. Good. All
very
right,
cool.
that's awesome. I'll go back to. I don't know if you ever do this, but I kind of like to do. I like to start a merge for the two of the sisters and then say no,
Oh,
so
say
that
not a
it says
match.
so they
Yes,
yeah, so it will just. I think it'll tell people in the future that come along that
I
they'll see
love
my
that.
message there. So
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I love that
I
as a
think
kind of
good.
safeguard to
Preventive.
people.
Yeah, yeah,
Preventative, yeah.
yeah. Oh, this is awesome. Wow.
I love it. Richard, this has
Yeah,
been
this is
such a
cool.
good experience.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm glad we did this. It's been a really good experience. Well, this is awesome, Kathryn. I appreciate this. We've covered a lot of ground, and I've appreciated your insights through all this. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the privilege of being here. This was
Yeah.
a treat for me. So
Well, good. Well, yeah, we identified some other areas that we can address in a future video. So we'll do this again. And yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
you're very welcome.